just like the interaction between the lawyer and the client sometimes is so strange. It's just so strange.
Welcome to The Defense Never Rests with Morgan and Akins, your monthly dose of uncommon sense about all things legal and some that are not.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of The Defense Never Rests. This week, I have on one of my network co-authors, Winter Wheeler, and she's just so much fun to talk to, and she cracks me up. And I'm having her to come on to do this 10-question format with her. So I have lots of questions to ask her about her mediation practice, as well as some personal ones. So with that said, let me bring her in. Hey, Winter, thanks so much for coming on to this episode of The Defense Never Rests. I told you earlier, I'm playing with a little new format, a 10-question format. Although I'm gonna be honest, sometimes there's 11 questions, sometimes there's 12. So we'll see how it goes.
We'll see.
But you have no idea what I'm gonna ask you. I've just made you a promise that it's not gonna be terrible.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
So before we get into like the meat of it, I can't start this off without, I just realized before we got on that you also went to Georgetown, as did I.
I did.
I think we overlap, but we didn't know each other. I don't believe. I think you graduated a year or two after me.
I graduated in 03.
Yeah, I was 01.
Okay.
So yeah, we probably didn't hang out. But I have to know. I mean, I have my favorite spots, but like, during your time there, like what was your favorite spot? I'm talking about bars.
I got that part.
Yeah, I don't care about anything else.
Lounger.
I love to study.
I really did love, I think it was the second floor of the library where you could talk.
Yeah, me too.
So I did actually spend a lot of time there. I went to the Tombs a lot like everybody else did. And I went to, oh my God, what was the name of that club? It was like an Arab club, and
I don't know. Sounds fun.
A lot of my friends were Arab back then, so we would go to this club. I cannot remember the name of it to save my life, but it was so much fun, and they had these
Was it the hookah place?
No, there weren't. They didn't have hookahs in there, but it was I don't know, maybe it'll come to me as we're talking, but they had these like weird like metal cage things, and there were cage dancers and stuff, like go-go dancers in there. It was crazy. And it was like 2 stories high. I don't know.
I don't think I went there. I don't know.
Babylon.
Oh, Club Babylon. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that is it.
Spent a lot of time there.
Well, did you do the 99 Days Club at the Tombs?
I did not. Back then, I mean, I'm a pretty decent drinker now. I was not back then. So no, I didn't do that. I did go a lot toward the very end of the 99 days, just to see what was going on. And I mean, what was going on is exactly what I thought was going on. So that's why I wasn't going.
Yeah. Well, I did.
Oh, you did it?
I did it.
Of course you did.
Well, I lived like a stone's throw away. So it was super easy. And I was on like whatever, I don't know what whatever committee it was that you managed the list. So like you would volunteer to manage the list on certain days and you could drink for free. So we did that.
Smart.
Yeah.
I lived on N Street for a while. Was it N Street?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, and it was still student housing technically.
Yeah, the endowment houses, right?
Yes. Well, I've forgotten a lot, apparently.
Good. I lived in an endowment house on Prospect for like the last 2 years, and it was so close. So it was just.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's why it was just too easy.
Went to Wisey's a lot.
Yes.
Yeah. Those chicken fingers were like amazing. And now I'm hungry.
Yeah. Yeah. I went last summer. Was it last summer or 2 summers ago? We took our kids to DC and we did like the Georgetown tour and all the other stuff. So we had lunch at the Tombs. I remember Tombs being much better, like food wise, than it actually is. I mean, it was fine, but I was like, I thought this was tastier then.
It's like my memories, they've betrayed me.
Yes. I should have just kept it then. Like it was the best food ever.
I have not been back with my kids. I haven't been there since graduation, I don't think.
Oh, really? You should go.
Yeah. I mean,
or don't. Whatever.
Or not.
There's museums and stuff. There's other stuff to do.
I mean, I would drag my 4 crazy children to some museums. It would be a nightmare. I mean, I can't get them like to stop tantruming here. Like, I'm not paying to get them all the way up there and so they can cry in a different location.
Yeah, when it's crowded too, amongst other kids crying.
Right. Yeah.
All right, and it's probably hot and humid too. So scratch that trip. Go someplace else.
Yeah, we'll wait on that.
So, so today you run your own mediation practice, which I is awesome. Like, kudos to you. I think that's
Thank you.
But you weren't always a mediator, so you were like a litigator.
Mm-hmm. For 14 years.
Wait, how did you come to decide, like, all right, like I'm done with private practice and I'm going to start my own thing, and I'm going to be, start my own mediation business.
Yeah, I honestly, I started to hate litigating. Started to hate it. I really did. And it wasn't my cases, it wasn't my clients, it wasn't anything like that. It was just the atmosphere, the nonstop work, making sure hours are billed. And it was just a grind that I was no longer interested in. And I had always wanted to be a mediator anyway. And so I was like, I've been doing this long enough, I think, to go ahead and give something else a shot. And I, came across an old friend that I don't know, and this was pre-pandemic, but we'd never actually met in person. I knew of her. She had worked at a firm that I worked at before I was there. And I ended up calling her a couple of times to ask her questions about her cases or whatever. And so we would talk very, very infrequently. And she was running for office. And I was like, oh, I'm happy to donate to your campaign. Let's meet over here and have a drink, and I'll bring you a check. Mm-hmm. And so she was a mediator at the time as well. And we kind of got onto that topic. And next thing you know, I'm interviewing and I'm a mediator. And so the way that it works is, you join a panel. I'm not sure how familiar you are with these things, but you join a panel of mediators. And I was able to join the top panel in our region in the Southeast. So that was a huge, huge thing for me.
Yeah.
And I had always wanted to be there anyway, right? That was the place I wanted to be.
Sure.
So I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is actually happening right now. And so I was going to mediate and litigate at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I was already as a litigator, I mean, I don't know, maybe you haven't noticed this about me, but I'm a little bit of a busybody. I have a hard time sitting still. So I was already running around like a lunatic. So to add something else to it really wouldn't have made a whole lot of sense. And but I did. I thought that I could at least try it for a little while. And that did not happen. And I ended up leaving the law firm for reasons that are discussed in our book, in Networked. So plug, if you haven't read that yet, please do. Where is it?
It's right there.
Yes. And so then the next thing you know, I am an independent mediator affiliated with this one particular firm, and trying to get clients, and suddenly realizing this is a lot harder than I thought it would be.
Really? I mean, I can imagine so, if you're new to that area, when you think about it, you remember this from your days in litigation, you send out an email what are your experience with these 3 mediators? And, mm-hmm. It's hard when if you're not on that list of people who have any experience with you, people might just pass you over. And it's
right,
hard
or not even realize that you're there.
Yeah.
So, I was a little bit uniquely situated in that I was very well known around town. But of course, I was known as a defense attorney.
Right.
And not always a super nice one either. So there were some plaintiffs' lawyers who were a little skeptical about me,
Mhm.
but everything worked out. Everything worked out, but it did. It took a lot of work, and I'm glad that I had at least a few months before we went on lockdown so that I could like be out and about and be a
Right.
little friendlier.
Yeah, and that it must have been scary too, because you're just, getting your feet really wet, and now you have to kind of pivot again and adjust to this new model that probably wasn't
Yeah.
what you were just learning, really.
No, no, not at all. Because I started as a mediator in November of 2019. So I was just starting to get work and trying to meet clients and taking people out and all of that stuff. And that was the only model that I knew. And then of course we got stuck at home,
Hmm.
and that went out the window. And then it turned into a giant campaign to get people to want to use virtual mediation since we still wanted to be working. Um, and that turned into me doing a lot of webinars, a lot of teaching, a lot of one-on-one tutorials with lawyers about, this is how Zoom works,
Hmm.
very, very early on, obviously, before
Yes.
everybody knew how to use it. But it was great. It worked out really well. I met a lot of people that way and gained a lot of trust in a different, in a different area, I guess.
Yeah.
So instead of just being, or just, just, I was, instead of being that defense attorney who was tough but that you could trust, I was also very helpful,
Yeah.
and now also a mediator. So I just, I had to get my face out there a lot. I started posting a lot on LinkedIn, and thankfully everything worked out.
Now, did you find it difficult to make that transition over to, like, going from the full-on defense attorney, on the defense? Now you have to look at things in the middle.
Hmm.
And I can imagine that was a difficult transition to kind of try to, change your mindset a little bit.
It was, but it wasn't as difficult as you would imagine, because when you're in the room with the other side, like you get it, like you get where they're coming from. You understand what's going on with them and what they need, why they're there. And I I can honestly say that I have not met anyone who I think is just like full of it. Like when I was a defense lawyer, I thought everybody was full of it. I'm like, there's no way there's anything wrong with this woman. So but it's been refreshing that I haven't found any of that. So it's not been as hard as I thought the transition would be, thankfully. And I think I've also just evolved a bit as a person in this time period, knowing that I need to be neutral and focusing on how I do that, right? How do I actually stay neutral and appreciate what everyone has to say and bring to the table? And then it pretty quickly became second nature.
Yeah. So there's the question, like, how do you stay neutral? I mean, how were you able to get there? Because I mean, I know I always have to, take a step back, and you probably recall this too. You have to be like, okay, what are they thinking? What arguments are they going to make? But it's more of like, what arguments are they going to make? How am I going to respond, or how am I going
Hmm.
to get up ahead of that? So, but being neutral and looking at it is slightly different. So, how did you train your mind to kind of shift that way?
Well, I've always been an empathetic person, right? So I've always been in a situation where I was trying to understand how somebody might feel, um, which is of course more difficult when you're on the defense and you're not talking to you're not talking to the plaintiff like that. Um, but when you're when you're in the room with them, it's just it is completely different. At least for me. I don't know about anyone else, but um I can just it's easier to see both sides. And it's
Yeah.
easier to see holes in one side and holes in the other side and see if I can be like, well, you're not right about that part because it's like, well, I think they have a point over here about this too. So maybe you're both wrong. um, but it's a matter of doing exactly what you were talking about, like building your thoughts on one side and then building your thoughts on the other and seeing where there is agreement. Of course, we will always want to start with what do they agree on, but wherever there is a gap, if I can help them figure out whether or not the gap or the distinction makes any sense whatsoever, if it's likely not going to make any difference to a jury, we start talking about those things. And that's how, my goal is to help them come to a resolution or whatever their goal is for the day. Sometimes it's just to do a whole lot of informal discovery. But just trying to make sure they get what they need. And because I hear both sides of the argument, it's easier to know what they need.
Yeah.
It's easier to know what information they are both missing to help them get to the middle. And I can help make suggestions about that. And, it's very, very cool because as that like third party, not that I take the place of the jury, right? Because
Sure.
I'm impartial, I'm neutral, but I'm still a person who has instincts about what I'm hearing. So
Sure.
if you say something and the first thing I think is, what? And I might say to you, I'm not so sure about that. I'm not that convinced. Tell me more about that.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's always very interesting. It's like if I, as someone who's been a litigator for as long as I have, if I'm not following you and your argument anywhere at all, we really need to talk through it.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you, I think I'm a question 4, by the way.
I have no idea.
Don't worry. I'm sort of keeping track.
I don't care. It's fine. Just
This
keep
is not a science, like or an art. It's just something in between.
Lawyers don't count.
But when you're preparing for a mediation, like before you have your parties come in, whether in person or virtually, whatever it may be, how do you prepare? Like what is your process?
It depends on how much information they're willing to give in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer, and I always reach out right away and I ask for position statements, mediation reports, police reports, expert
Right.
reports, pleadings, anything at all.
The
Like,
name of the case.
Please listen. I typically don't know the full style of the case. It'll be like last name, and then people will show up into the Zoom room, and I'm like, "Are you Jones?" Which is kind of funny because like people will pop in with like, it'll just be numbers. I'm like, well, I can't associate your phone number with who you are on this sheet of paper. But anyway, yes, please tell me their names. And no one ever tells me their claims rep's name ever.
Oh, really?
That's so, yes, please.
Well, I guess
share that information.
But I guess in the world of Zoom, you don't really think about that because before you would come together and you'd be
Right.
like, John Smith, oh yeah, he's my adjuster, and they'd be different. But now you're all coming in from different places,
And
so
at different times, and I'm just looking at the waiting room like this name is not on my list.
right. And then you want to be careful. You don't want to bring the wrong person in, and it's a whole other dynamic.
Yeah.
Now, like I know, like whenever I go to mediation, I usually do a statement, and I always appreciate it. Like when you do the statement, you come in and that the mediator's like actually has an idea of what's going on.
Right.
So I can't imagine coming in blind for you, like, and then you kind
All
of
the
have to
time.
weed through the whole process, like
All
on
the
your
time.
toes.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
amazing. Like,
Yeah.
because
It happens all the time.
I'm almost like speechless because, well, not really, because there are some attorneys I can think out there that like they walk into certain proceedings and they're like, oh, here's my arbitration memo when the arb's starting in like 2 minutes or something. But
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, it does speed the process up a little bit if everyone knows what's going on, at least each side's version
Yes,
and
it
what the
does.
medicals may be or not be and what the, injury is. Like that's a
Mm-hmm.
good starting
Mm-hmm.
point.
Oh yeah, I mean, we go through a lot of this. Even when I have all of that in advance, we still will go through a lot of it in the beginning, but it's definitely more cursory and not like a 30-minute 30-minute interaction at the beginning of the day. So
Yeah.
yes, it is helpful to provide a lot of information. I read all of it, take
Yeah.
notes, keep it handy with me here on my well, right now my desk is messy.
It's okay. We can't see it.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but yeah, I would have all of that stuff here with me and I would have it labeled like who gave me what, who said I could disclose what. It's all like color coded. But it's very helpful to have some idea of what I'm going to be coming into, and more so than the facts typically. Like, what's the relationship between the people? Like,
Hmm.
do you hate the other attorney? Like, have you never been able to speak to them? Because that would be nice to know. Do
Yeah.
you hate your own client?
Hmm.
That's also very nice to know. You would be shocked by how often that happens.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Can I can I shadow you for a day? Like, can I just sit in one of these, get permission from the other parties and be like, I have someone who just wants to
I have to
be a
find you a good
fly
one.
on the wall. I really want to. I'm because I'm always very curious too. Obviously, when I'm in a mediation, what the discussion is in the other room with the other party, and I just, if I'm ever able to, I want to be a fly.
We'll have to see if we can work something out. Because I mean, sometimes it's I won't say that it's amusing, but it's definitely not what I thought was happening in that room when I
Okay.
was in the defense room.
Oh,
Never.
like what?
Very different. Like, well, you know what I'm talking like about just like the interaction between the lawyer and the client sometimes is so strange. It's just so strange.
Really?
I'll see, yeah, I'll see lawyers get visibly frustrated with their clients, and I'm like, do you like need a minute? 'Cause that doesn't help. Like, you having a tantrum is not going to help your client get this case resolved. Um,
Like, you're supposed to be in control here. Like,
yeah, get it together. Or at least turn your camera off so they can't see you for a minute.
yeah.
But yeah, the people have like physical reactions sometimes to the things that their clients are saying, and it's very bizarre because I was not anticipating any of that. And I don't know if it's I mean, when I was dealing with like claims reps and adjusters, we would always have like a friendly kind of fun relationship. We'd chit chat on the phone about these files, and then so when we were in mediation, it was just like a continuation.
Sure.
Um, but relationships can be very different between like a plaintiff and their counsel for various reasons. And then I don't think I ever had like an antagonistic relationship with an insured, but I mean, I wouldn't put it past me. I may have.
Um, and it's funny you bring that up. So, when you sitting as the mediator, how much impact do you think it has when you have your insured also come to the mediation? Because certainly they're not needed to be there if they're not holding, the purse strings. But I sometimes think it has an impact on the other side for them to be there and show that they care about the process, and they're invested in it. But from your point of view, what sort of impact do you think it has?
It depends on the type of case. So
Yeah.
if it's like a small car accident, without any allegations of somebody berating the other or doing anything crazy immediately after the fact, um, it's not really necessary. They don't really need to be there. I think by the time we get to mediation and that kind of a thing, the plaintiff is very well aware that the actual defendant has nothing to do with it, really.
Yeah.
Um, and every once in a while you might hear, oh, but the defendant is not a nice person, or I found out this about the defendant. Well, the defendant being there doesn't help that.
Right.
So in that instance, I don't think it's helpful.
Sure.
It's not helpful or harmful, really, frankly. In cases where the allegations are much more serious, like for example, like medical malpractice, it is I would want to have the doctors there.
Sure.
But of course you have to know your doctor. Like if your doctor's a hothead,
yeah.
if there's any chance he's gonna start, derailing the process, leave him at home. But if you have someone that you can train to, block out everything they hear and just say, I'm very sorry about what happened,
Right.
but I'm not liable, blah, 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 but otherwise, don't bring them or don't have them say anything.
Yeah.
Sometimes their presence is helpful if it is a death case, or somebody's been maimed or catastrophically injured. But having them speak is not necessarily helpful at all.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I've had a lot of cases that it's been like a terrible injury, and sometimes I do want my client there for that same reason to say, I'm very sorry this has happened to you, but just because you're sorry it happened doesn't mean you're at fault. So it's a fine line, but I think sometimes it does. Like sometimes I feel like the other party, they just want someone to acknowledge that they're hurting, and
absolutely,
and that might help move the process along.
Yeah, it definitely does. Sometimes people really just want an apology, and often people don't want to give apologies. Or the attorney doesn't want the client to give an apology. And there's that, competing interests sometimes, unfortunately, with the attorney, the claims rep, the defendant. And, especially when you have a less sophisticated defendant. Right?
Sure.
They don't understand the law. They don't understand why they can't necessarily just say I'm sorry. And so it can be complicated. So I mean, in my roundabout lawyer way, I guess I'm saying it depends.
That's always the answer, isn't it?
Right.
I mean, I had a client ask me a question the other day. I'm like, I'm going to give you the most lawyerly response. It depends.
It depends.
So or can you think of a crazy or a very unusual scenario that you've had happen in a case that really like stands out to you, that you're like, I can't believe this is happening right now in my life?
Yes.
Are you able to talk about it?
Yes, generally. So I have a reputation for being able to handle very strong personalities, right? Very angry plaintiffs, very contrary defendants, things like that. But sometimes that gets taken a little too far. And there are some people who are just not ready for the process, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was one particular woman, and she was she had a pretty small case, right? Generally speaking, she was fully recovered. So I'm not like talking about somebody who was really injured. Okay, she was fine. She'd had treatment for a couple of months and then was like completely back to normal. But for whatever reason, she was furious with her attorney, furious with him. And so my relationship with her started off fine because, I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
And then I dared say I agreed with something that he said, and all hell broke loose. She was like, well, you don't know what you're talking about, and you're a B, and you're a this, and you're a that, and you must be in cahoots with my lawyer. And I'm like, oh. I was like, not everybody is lying to you. Like, maybe you just don't understand. And then she was like, well, my cousin's a lawyer. And then, of course, I'm thinking to myself, if your cousin's a lawyer,
why didn't you hire him?
He didn't take her on, I'm assuming. He he knew how she was. But it was crazy. She must have gotten up and stormed out and come back in like 4 times.
And was this in like when you're actually in person?
We were not in person.
Oh, so she like left the room and then
Yes, it was so strange. And then I'm looking at, the participant count. I'm like, she's still here.
she just virtually walked out. I'll show you. I'm gonna leave the meeting.
Right. I don't know if it was that she thought maybe her attorney and I were gonna start talking about her behind her back, but I mean, that's not something that happens. And not only is it not something that ever happens, I knew she was still in the room.
Right. Like I can see.
I know what's happening here. So yeah, I mean that was really, really strange. And then we got to the end of that one, and there was a settlement that was it was really good for what the case was probably worth. And she thought she deserved like 4 times that.
Oh.
And this is of course after she already said she'd take it.
Yeah, begrudgingly. Like okay,
Begrudgingly. and then that went right to hell. And she's like, you know what? You're all against me. Just go ahead and sign it. I'll take it. And then she got up and she left again. But this time she actually literally left. And I was like, what? So that was a strange situation for me.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe I spent hours doing that. Very bizarre.
Well, and after that, I mean, you must, and this kind of goes a little bit to my next question, but like after you have like an experience like that, I mean, I'm sure, like, do you bring it home and talk, like, joke about it at home, like at the dinner table, or is it just like I'm done, like my work day is over, and now I need to switch over to mom of 4 kids?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different now, since I'm usually doing this from home.
Mhm.
And so it's like I might get up during between a caucus or whatever just to take a lap around the house, like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. And I'll just be like, I can't talk. I can't talk. And so, they first of all, my kids don't care, right? They're not interested in what's going on. And my husband, I'm not sure how interested he is either, but he knows better than to ask. So I don't really tell them much. I just kind of say, oh, it was good. It was bad. We settled. It was an impasse, kind of just generally.
Yeah.
And then it's like, can you like bring me some food?
Well, but I mean, you have 4 kids under, I think, really young, right?
My oldest is 9.
Okay, young. I mean, my oldest is 8 and I have 2. So, 4 kids under 9. I mean, I'm sure everyone has to use all the time, but like that is a lot
It is.
on your plate. Like
It is.
how do you make that car move? Like how does it go?
Slowly.
You lose a wheel here and there, like
yeah. Like sometimes I'm like, where'd the baby go? Where's the baby? Like, and then of course I'm the only one interested in finding out where the baby actually is. The other kids don't care. My husband's here a lot. He hasn't been working much during the pandemic, unfortunately, because he's a gigging musician. Is he not here right now? Of course not. He's working right now.
the one day.
The one day I need him on a random Saturday afternoon, right? So they watch a lot of TV.
Well,
We have a lot of toys, lots of movies, all streaming services. It's I'm a very, very indulgent mother, like ridiculously so. And the kids wanted a bounce house.
Mhm.
So I bought a bounce house.
Yeah.
And they wanted to put it in the backyard. And then of course defense attorney, I start Googling like the safety of these things and how they like fly away sometimes.
I had that case one time.
Did you?
Yes.
Oh God. Okay,
was
we gotta
not-
talk about that.
Yeah. We'll sidetrack to that after.
So I was like, okay, well, we're not doing that. So I just like I cleared out like the piano and the sofa, and I put the bounce house in the living room.
You live in the fun house.
I mean, I do things like that, and that'll distract them for a couple of days for the most part, like
Yeah.
having the big bounce house out there. And then sometimes we'll put, we have an 8-person tent. So
Erect it in the house.
yes, we put it up in the house and they like set up camp in there. They like really think they're doing something. So
Yeah, I mean, why not? I will say we have the bounce house and we do put it outside, and I have like it has to be a 3 day sun, like 3 days in a row sunny day rule, because putting it up is no problem, but taking that stupid thing down, and it says it can go back in this nice little package and it never fits.
it doesn't.
It's the worst. And then like there's always pollen on it, and if it gets wet, it's gross. Like inside is much better. It's just it's the way to go. Just keep it on all the time.
We also have this like oversized slip and slide thing. That is that keeps them entertained. But it has to be, a relatively sunny day, decent weather, and that's been hard to come by here in Atlanta. But I know that stupid thing's coming back out.
Yeah, it's
soon,
coming.
so.
It's coming soon. It's coming to get you. And they must like kind of entertain each other. So because
they do.
Yeah, because you have a 9-year-old, and what are the other ages?
They're 3, 4, 7, and 9. So they can definitely entertain themselves, but that's not always a good thing. So, for example, yesterday what was I doing yesterday? Was I mediating yesterday? I can't even remember. I was busy in here on camera, right? And I got up during a break to like grab something to eat, like run to the refrigerator. Well, I go in there and the 7 and the 9-year-old are peeling potatoes because they're about to make French fries. And so I'm like, what? And the tea kettle was on.
Oh, good.
Right?
Good. So you're gonna boil those potatoes?
I was like, I have no idea what's happening here. What's with the tea kettle? And so immediately I'm like, why in God's name would my husband say this is okay? So I'm like, where is your father? And they were like, well, Daddy said it was okay. Daddy said we could do this. We're gonna make French fries. And
why did Dad tell you could do that?
Right. So then I start screaming for my husband, who's like down in the basement, and he comes up and he's like, I didn't tell them they could do that. I said they had to wait. And I'm like, well, here we are. Why'd you go down to the basement? So no, entertaining themselves is not always a good thing. And they love using the air fryer. I mean, it's just, why do they think they can cook? I'm not sure.
Well, you know what? There's worse things. If they can use that air fryer.
But are there? I don't know that they do know how to use the air fryer. It's just worked out so far. So like now whenever like I'm alone in the house, like today, I made them like a big old plate of mozzarella cheese sticks. So that should keep them away from the air fryer
until their sticks get cold. They want to reheat them up in the air fryer. Then
they're really greedy, so that probably won't happen. But they'll be full until I'm done. So,
well,
hopefully
I don't know why my older daughter, who's 8, loves to use the hot glue gun, because I mean, you wouldn't want to use a hot glue gun, and I don't know why I let her do it, but she now has free reign over this hot glue gun.
You let her do that? What is she gluing?
Well, everything. I mean, anything that can be glued, she's like wants to glue it together with a hot glue gun. And then she found out that if you get a piece of wax paper, and then you can make hot glue designs on the wax paper, and then when it dries, it peels off the wax paper, and you can make all sorts of treasures. So she does that. But thankfully she's pretty responsible, but I do have to remind her that you need to unplug the hot glue gun. Otherwise, you're going to burn the house down. And when I said that, now she does remember, because she doesn't want to be responsible for that.
There is no way I'm teaching my kids about the hot glue gun. They don't. It's in the garage. They don't know that. Thankfully.
Yeah, maybe keep it away. I don't know how it started. We probably were making like a Halloween costume, and then they, realized how easy it was to use. It's
Godspeed.
and then, heaven forbid, I throw out any of these solidified glue treasures. She's like, no, that's, my decoration for something. I don't know. It's clutter.
Oh yeah,
It's trash, really. It's not
tra-
even
it's
clutter.
trash. This is garbage. This is garbage. My daughter does that. Like, she does weird stuff like that too, though. But worse. Okay, so she's 4, and like, she does not have access to the hot glue gun, but she does have like Elmer's. So sometimes,
Yeah. Also dangerous.
yes. So one time she like wrote her name in marker, on a paper towel of all things, and she glued these like leftover rhinestones from a school project.
Oh,
And it was
that's
kind of
creative.
cute. It was kind
Yeah.
of cute. But then she tried to make it into an envelope by using Elmer's glue. And then she put it into another envelope and closed that with Elmer's glue. And she was like, I love you, mommy. And I was like, oh, it's like dripping. I'm like, I love this so much, sweetie. Let's just put it over here so it can dry.
And then it sticks to the counter, and it's just,
I'm like, yep, something else for me to clean up later.
yeah, yep. But you have to keep it for like a little bit of a time until then they forget you have it, and then it makes its way
Right.
to the trash. But like you can't dispose of it immediately. They have to kind of like move
They
on.
have to forget about it. So exactly, like what I do is I'll leave it out for a while and I'll fawn over it for a few days, and then I'll put it like on a high shelf. And if they don't ask for it, it can go in the trash.
It goes above the fridge. Anything annoying goes above the fridge until they like all slime goes above the fridge until it's forgotten, and then it goes
Oh my
away.
God, I hate slime. Yeah.
Oh, it's the worst. It
It's
is the
disgusting.
worst. And they always get the farting slime too. So it not only is it gross, it's annoying because it makes noises.
We have not had farting slime, and I hope my kids don't know that it exists.
They're gonna find it. They're gonna find it. Okay. So I digress. I think I have digressed quite a bit. Let's see. Yes. We'll just skip ahead here. So during your career, or even it could be in life, but can you recall or pick out a really good piece of advice that you still carry with you today?
Oh gosh. Don't let anybody tell you what you can and cannot do.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Who told you that? Do you remember?
Probably my mom, while she
Probably.
was telling me what I could and
You could not
do.
do. Don't ever tell you can't do this, but do not do that.
Right. She was very much do what I say, but don't necessarily listen to anyone else. No, she taught me not to limit myself, right? And people have a bad habit of limiting other people based on their own fear and their own sense of limitation. And she told me never to buy into that. No one can tell you what you're capable of. That's up to you to decide. So,
Yeah.
I've had plenty of people tell me, when I wanted to become a mediator, like, oh, well, you're crazy. You can't do that. Like, you're not old enough, and you're not white enough, and you're not male enough, and you're this and you're that. And I was like, you know what? You don't know what you're talking about. I can
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah, and screw them, Like,
Truly. I mean, I have a list. Like, I have a list of names.
well, I hope
I
I'm
have a
never on that
list.
list. Yeah. It's like I have it right here in this drawer, and I pull it
I
open.
keep it right here.
And and you mentioned your mom, and it made me think of this. So you have 4 kids. Did you grow up
Mhm.
in a big family, or did you just
I'm one
want a
of
big?
3.
Yeah,
I'm one
that's
of
big.
3. And I liked having siblings to a certain extent. I mean, they were significantly younger than I was. So
Okay.
my brother is 7 years younger than me, and my sister is 10 years younger. So our relationships were very different. We weren't like roughhousing or anything like that. I was more like mommy number 2, which I didn't always appreciate.
Mhm.
But I liked having siblings, but I didn't like that we were an odd number. I always
Okay.
felt like kind of ganged up upon.
By the little kids. The
Oh
little
God,
ones.
yes. And so they knew I couldn't retaliate because I'm so much older, and it
Yeah.
was just a little frustrating, which is another reason that I had all of my children back to back to back to back. Um Yeah.
And so like, because I have a friend that has 4 kids, but she had 2 and then went for a third and had twins.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, but they're, great. But you went in feeling like you wanted to have 4.
I wanted to have 4. Yeah. I wanted to have 4. Definitely. I wanted to have 4. I had the first one, and I was like, dear sweet baby Jesus, if I make it through this labor, I won't do this again. And of course, you forget about that. And then I had the second one, and I was like, oh, God. And it was another boy. So I had 2 boys, and I was like, there's just, I need a little girl. I really want to try for a little girl. And so we did. The third one was a girl, and I was like, well, maybe we won't have another one. Maybe we just won't. And then surprise, I was like, going to get that 4th baby anyway. So, my 4th little guy showed up as a little present.
And was your husband from a big family or
No, he's got a brother and a half sister. His half sister is significantly older than he is. So, I would say no. It's just him and his one brother, really.
Okay. So now we're getting to more, I think, the offbeat questions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is easy.
I'm ready.
Easy peasy stuff.
I thought you said sleazy. I was like, wait a minute. I thought we started there with the cages and the bars and the
Called Babylon. So, and I know there's probably 2 answers to this question, but there's probably, what movie can you watch over and over? And I know there's probably movies you have to watch over and over, but if you had your choice of a movie that you would watch, regardless of where you are, what you're doing, you're like, oh yeah, I'll sit and watch this one again.
Clueless.
Oh, that's a good one.
I love that movie. I think I know it by heart. Another one that I have seen a million times, can always watch, is Drive Me Crazy. And most people have never even seen it.
I've never even heard of
it. It's got Melissa Joan Hart and Adrian Grenier before he was famous.
I love him. He's
like
adorable. He's like one of the ones on my celebrity list.
Oh, the hall pass list. I don't have an official list, but Jason Momoa is like on it.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Yeah, I mean, it's not written down anywhere. It's right here.
Oh, we aren't supposed to write them down.
You can. What you do is what you do. You have your list of people. You have one list of people.
My list, my blood list. Yes.
Yeah, I think that the movie I've said this before, the one I watch over and over is Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Anytime it's on.
I have never seen it.
Oh, come on. It's a great one. You got to watch it like tonight. It's probably on.
Is it on like Amazon or Netflix or something?
It's probably on like TNT. Like it's always.
Oh, it's that prolific, and I've completely missed it. Okay, I'll check it out.
So what is one thing that you like to do that other people might think is weird, or say is weird, or you might think people might think is weird?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I'm so cool. And so normal. One thing I like to do, I work out a lot.
Good.
A lot. Like
that's
a
weird.
Like,
It's
is it
define
not
a lot.
weird?
Define a lot. Like I work out a lot too, but maybe I'm not working out enough.
like a couple hours a day at least.
What are you doing? What are you doing for a couple hours a day?
I'm a complete lunatic. I'll do an upper body, lower body, and full body and core, and like all in one day.
And do you have like
so
one
exciting
kid on your back and like one like poking at your belly or something like that?
I mean, sometimes they do climb on me when I'm doing like planks or whatever, but and then, sometimes I'll just be on the treadmill, or I don't know. It just it clears my head. It's a more recent thing for me, really. I've always been like a treadmill kind of person. I was never into like weights. I'm suddenly into weights, but it's like I need to do it for like a couple of hours. And I mean, I will like miss sleep in order to do it. I don't know why.
Well,
I can't even explain it myself.
I mean, I I think it's great though to help like clear your head, and and like it helps you like focus.
For
Um
sure. I hope that, yeah, I mean, that's totally what I'm doing. When
um
I'm doing it, right?
or I just lost my focus because my kid's friend just rang the doorbell, so I had to message someone to go let her in. Sorry.
Oh, I didn't hear the doorbell. I hear
um
that.
yes. There's like, I don't know how many there. There's like 7 of them here now, but that's like nothing.
Oh, wow.
um okay, anyway, back to it. Totally forgot what I was talking about. I was like texting my husband being like, someone's coming to the door, can you open the door, they're gonna ring the doorbell. Okay, well, I feel like my last question is going to kind of go with the exercise question, but I was going to ask you what your guilty pleasure is, and I feel like maybe your guilty pleasure is exercising, but that's not
Oh,
should be
no,
guilty at
that's
all. Okay.
no. Champagne.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Champagne is my thing. I am always looking for a reason to open a bottle of champagne. And it could be cheap champagne, it could be fancy champagne. I don't care. I'll be like, I had a really great mediation today. Champagne time.
I have no problem with that.
But sometimes my husband is like, I'm not sure that that's this particular thing is something to celebrate. And I'm like, you know what? I feel like it.
Well,
You
it
only
does.
live once, right?
You don't have to drink it to celebrate. Sometimes you could have had a really shitty mediation and be like, I need some champagne to make, make the bubbles make me feel better.
On shitty days, I just drink wine. Like
Well, and the thing that's great about champagne is like you can't save it for the next day.
exactly.
You're like it doesn't hold.
You have to drink it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a rule.
Mm-hmm.
It's not you overindulging. It's just the rule.
Yeah, like you don't want the like flat champagne the next day that has like a bubble.
They're like, what can I do with this? Nothing. Oh, and you know what? And now I'm thinking about another club I used to go to a lot. Was it 1221? It was like,
Mm.
now that's gonna come to me too. But it was also it doesn't exist anymore. It's something else. But it was huge, and it had 2 stories, and the second floor was VIP, and it was
Okay.
insane. And we used to go there. We used to go there before we were 21.
Well,
So we had to sneak in the back. And so our friends who would actually have tables up there, they would get them to open the back, and so we would have to literally go down through the alley sometimes and climb the fire escape. And
no
that's how we
way.
did it. I cannot believe we did that.
And you were
But
probably
yeah.
wearing short skirts or those black pants that everyone wore then. The going out black pants.
Listen. I loved those pants.
Me too. And at the time, they didn't have pockets, so you'd have to take your ID, your fake ID, and you'd wrap your money around it and stick it down the front of your pants. Because I didn't bring a purse.
I was always putting stuff in my bra.
Oh, that was probably smart. I would just stick it down the front of my
I
pants.
mean, I think both were gross. But that's what we were doing. Oh my god.
Well, and also I remember going out with just a $20 bill, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get pretty drunk tonight off that $20 bill, and that's all you needed. You could go out, get home, no problem, $20.
Yep, everything was fine.
Yeah,
And now it's like $40 just to get the Uber into town for
right.
me.
Right. Oh, see, you gotta bring your kids back. See, I don't even think those clubs are open though. They don't need to see that.
It's like, they don't need to know what mommy was doing.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
No.
Well, Winter, thank you so much for coming on. And I love. I could probably talk to you for another hour, but we'd probably just be swapping stories about college, and I don't know.
And our children growing increasingly aggravated in the background.
I know, like we have very limited time frames before shit hits the fan, and I think it's getting shit's starting to fly. But thank you so much for taking time, out of your Saturday, nonetheless. Both of us on Saturday. This is crazy, but
we're hardcore.
We are.
We're hardcore. We're dedicated.
But for our our listeners out there, Winter was also one of the co-authors of Network, which she discussed before. But why don't you tell everyone where they can find you if they need a mediator, and are you just the Atlanta region, or do you go outside of that?
No, I'm available nationally, and I'm licensed as an attorney in Georgia, Florida, and New York. So those are my three main states. But I am available absolutely everywhere. You can find me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is probably the easiest place to find me, and you can find me at winterwheeler.com. Or you can listen to my podcast, which you can find basically anywhere. Or, I mean, I worked pretty hard on getting it in like 50 different places. But it's called The Mediate Now. And so you can go to themediatenow.com.
Awesome. Well, everyone should check you out and tune into your podcast as well.
Thank you so much for inviting me today.
Thanks so much for coming on.